Little demo just so you guys can get a gist of this. You guys should be able to see me in that camera. I'm red, orange, and yellow. This is recording. We will record audio and video all night. You will get the video back. So we are looking for blue and black spots to move on their own. Those are going to be our cold spots. He's also going to have a blue dot on the screen moving around to this, obviously the coldest spot in the moment. So in the event something goes to that spot, he's always going to have it there. But in the event that it starts to form, and we start to see it move around a little bit, we actually probably have something going on that we can't explain. So that's usually why we're here. This thermal imaging, it doesn't always capture something every single night. I'm completely honest with you guys. I don't make anything up. So if you guys watch the TV shows, I'm not Zach Bagans. I'm sorry. But again, I catch about 4 or 5 good, solid pieces of evidence from this device every single year. So again, and I'm out here 6 nights a week. So kind of take that for what it's worth. But we won't capture anything unless we're recording. However, we will do some starts and stops. As great as the hardware is, the software sucks. If we record for too long, we'll lose all footage, and we don't want to do that. So I'll give you the cues of when we want to start and stop. It is recording now. I'll give you the cue for the first stop. You do want to keep that camera on your left-hand side at all times. So even when I tell you to restart it again, make sure it's in that same horizontal position. Otherwise, it goes upside down because YouTube doesn't know the flips. And then I got to give out your phone number. It's never fun. So I'm just kidding. Wow, you guys are really, just really into the ghost stuff. No jokes. Got it. All right. So, but anyway.
Want me to stop it now?
Nope, you're good. We're going to keep it recorded. A lot of people like to watch the demo for everything, so that's why we always record this first piece. So let's get into spirit boxes. Let's get Taylor all set up. She's ready to go. So spirit boxes, we're going to use several different types. We're going to put one in every single group tonight. So this one is going to sweep through your FM radio stations at a very quick rate. So on your TV shows and YouTube videos, this is the white noise. This is, right? And then your host will tell you exactly what he thinks he heard in the middle of the screen to try to convince you of the exact same thing. So we're going to be doing this in real time, only there's a few differences. Mine is slowed down on purpose. Your ears aren't trained to listen to this all night long in just white noise. I want the radio chatter to come through. The song lyrics, the DJs, the commercials. Those are the kinds of things that if you hear them, we want to know what it is. The cool thing is you're going to have an earbud. I don't want them back. Earwax is gross. But you're going to be the only one that can hear it. However, tomorrow morning, yours is going to be recording. So I'm going to give the recording to everybody tomorrow morning in all of the data. So if I'm going to go through it and spot check it, I'll find about 15 to 20 markers, whether it's relevant or not to our person that I'm talking about in history, a location of where we are, or even something going on with one of you guys. So in the event that it is relevant to one of those 3 things, I'll always tell you why, and then give you a backlink to verify the info. Unless, of course, it's something going on with one of you, then you'll have the audio because somebody told me it was relevant to them. So I'm going to set it up to record, and then I'm going to get you a set of earbuds. Actually, London can pull out those earbuds. They're not. Yeah, you do. Listen. Your one joke was good. You have one button to worry about on yours. There's a wheel at the top.
Okay.
So you will control the volume for how loud you want it to be, and then the whole for the earbuds that we need to is right there.
Should we switch off? Should we all switch off?
All right. I usually run 2 of these, only this one is not going to record. So I'm going to need another set of earbuds. This is still rough.
I know.
I'm losing names. Maddie. Good job, London. So yours, you're running the exact same thing, only it's not recording. So I have to rely on you of whatever you hear to tell me what you've actually heard. It's already sweeping. The only thing you have to worry about is the volume. Just right here, it's the volume wheel. So you will turn it up and down. London will get you a set of earbuds, and the whole Ford is right there. So that goes to you. The last spirit box we're going to use, Kelly, was it?
Yes.
Okay. So yours is a little bit different. So this one actually gives us words from time to time in the center of the screen. So with that, it's going to save all those words to a list. 80% of what comes up out of this list doesn't mean anything. It's meant to be a game and a hoax. My last group had over 100 terms, which is quite a lot. I usually expect about 75 to 85 in a 90 minute to a 2 hour tour. So they actually had a lot going on that night. It was also a full moon, so that tells you anything. But when I say let's check out where the list is at, you're going to hit the little white button next to the word. Our first word is going to be safety. So again, 80% of this doesn't mean anything. It's the other 20% that I'm going to obviously give you the link and tell the explanation of why it's actually relevant. So again, that's another form of spirit box. You don't have to listen. You just basically have to watch for the words, and I will come to you when I want to see the list. You don't always need to show me every term that comes up. Let's see. This is a millimeter. So basically what this is going to do for us, this is going to measure 3 different things. Electromagnetic fields. So you guys usually see the blinky lights on television, right? So this one is a lot more accurate because it's digital. So Malcolm, anything above 2.5 on the big number, we want to know what it is and try to debunk it first before we kind of claim it to be paranormal. In the event Steve finds anything on his camera, I'm going to get names down, I promise. If he finds anything on his camera, we're measuring ambient temperature as well with the probe here at the top. It also measures motion. So in the event something actually gets close to this antenna that I just pulled out, it will go off. The closer it gets, the higher the pitch, and different colors are on the front. I will show you more about that at our first location. For now, I'm just going to close it, leave the little flap open in the back. So you two are set up. Let's see here. Let's go into this. So, Trey, this one's going to go to you. This one works a lot differently than the thermal imaging camera. You should not be able to see me in the camera right now. I know it's a small screen. But we're going to turn on some lights. So we're working with full spectrum infrared lighting. So we're working with light we can't see with our own eyes. So hopefully we'll be able to capture something we can't see with our own eyes. Yours is also going to do some starts and stops. I don't start yours right away, but when we do, it's this guy right here. I'll show you more about the way the lights work once we're in motion with other pieces and other locations. So Gray, you're going to be kind of the person everybody follows on your end. You're going to get the basic EMF meter. Any motion off of this guy, we need to know what's going on with it. Cell phones and that kind of thing, we'll set it go off. We want it to go erratic. We want it to go a little bit nuts. You don't need to turn off your phone or anything. I know most people reach for that. You don't need to. Your phone would literally have to be touching it to make it go off. Oh. So if anything does happen, it's going to pick up electrical wires and buildings. We're always going to debunk things first, but if you have erratic activity, then obviously you need to be paying attention on the spirit box and see what's going on there. Cool. Next. This is the neuralizer for Men in Black. Nobody's going to remember anything when we're done. Lasers. Lasers we're going to change those batteries out because I can see they're weak already. Lasers get Nick in a lot of trouble, so we have to make sure we keep them on the ground. So why we're giving these to you is because on his camera, you can see these a whole hell of a lot better. The cool thing about lasers is you can see the pen and you can see the dots on the ground, but you can't see the lasers until something passes through it. The hope is that on film we'll be able to capture what's actually passing through it, and hopefully we actually have some kind of activity that doesn't look like a bug or an insect. You're going to have 2 of these. This one works by toggle switch. We use red squares too, because we capture something here, and I can take that still from the camera, and we can actually put it in 3D software and give you full 3D view of what we have along with measurements. I've had this thing for almost a year. I've had 2 pieces that were close to being recognized in the 3D software, but nothing solid yet, so hopefully tonight is our night. So, this one works on a toggle switch, so again, on the ground only, because if you turn it on, you're going to be able to wave it around without doing anything, so just make sure you shut it off ahead of time, and then we're going to get you some fresh batteries for that guy at our first stop. Alright, I think everybody's fully loaded now, right? Except for London?
Yeah.
She carries the bag. No, I'm kidding. So, here's what happens from here. We're at Big John's. Any questions, comments, or concerns so far? Man, you guys are really quiet.
I already forgot where you told me the wheel was to turn this on.
Oh. It's at the very top.
I was trying to feel for it. I thought that's
yeah,
what
yours is a little bit more inlaid than the rest.
Okay.
So, we're at Big John's. Any other questions before I dive into stuff?
So we're kind of working in tandem a little bit. I need to look at when
you
he's
got
pointing at.
Yep, you got it. and that will set off car alarms, and you will blind drivers. That's why we keep it on the ground. Nick's going to be the one that's arrested if you blind somebody. Just saying. No pressure.
To the perfect one.
What change in this is notable? Like, would be
Anything off that first green dot,
all right.
we want to know what's going on and try to measure it. London will kind of give you an example.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, cell phones, wiring, we always wanted to debunk things first. Here's our first debunking tool. Again, we're not here to make stuff up. So, we start here at Big John's on purpose because this place was owned by Big John Kennedy. He was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants. This was his bar, and he used to sit in the back and tell the bartender if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink or not. One night, 2 guys weren't old enough to drink. Big John has a bartender throw them out. They leave pretty angry. They come back the next night and try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's happening, he gets all pissed off, and he goes to the front, and he just starts pounding these guys into the floor. A couple of shots go off. John gets hit in the neck. The bullet lands in the wall. John gets up after being shot, goes back to the bar, and tells the bartender to get him another beer, get the 2 guys on the floor in ambulance. So in that story, nobody dies. So what's haunting the place is the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. Even if they filled it in during the renovations, John's blood is still in this building. People that sit in the front of this bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, headache. I bring this up on purpose. Fingers crossed we're going to be dealing with paranormal activity tonight. I don't know how it's going to affect anybody. If anybody feels any of those symptoms, the slightest bit, we need to know immediately so we can move the group to safety. I won't say that people haven't passed out from this tour. You guys are already quiet enough, so let's move on to something a little bit more happy. So, big earthquake here in 1886. You guys, if you've taken any kind of Charleston tour, you already knew that. This is allegedly where the first death occurred. The mantle you see in the middle of the building also wraps around the front to the east bay side. A piece of that broke off from the earthquake, hit somebody in the back of the head, and killed them, and they say you could see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street in the middle of the night. I say apparently and allegedly a lot with that because I don't have any proof. It's just a great segue so nobody thinks about getting sick on the tour. So, Kelly's like, oh God, what the hell did I sign up for? Are you guys all ready to go ghost hunting?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna head over this way. Gray's like, yeah, let's get this thing moving. I'm tired of staying on a green light.
Well, speed it up.
Got a little bit going on? Cool. It's a good sign. Get it all brought in. Alright, so we're already getting a little bit of EMF over here.
I could have swore I heard something, but I had it down too low.
What did you hear?
I just heard something, a voice, but it was too low. I couldn't
Okay.
tell.
Well, again, you're listening for DJs and song lyrics.
I don't hear any of that.
Then you definitely got to turn it up.
Even with it up. Just
Yeah.
white noise.
Can't go on the floor and see if anybody passes out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No access to any of these buildings, unfortunately. Trust me, I've tried. Alright, so welcome to the Big Red Barn lot. I'm watching Gray's EMF meter because he's getting about 15 to 20 milligauss. So, Malcolm, if you see anything on yours, please just let us know. It'll kind of verify that. Yours measures
2.5.
over 2.5. So, history here is super simple, guys. Again, we're not going to spend a lot of time here.
Now you turn this on?
Can, at this point.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It'll start flashing. There you go. So, history here is really simple, only because we want to teach you a little bit more about your devices. This is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides. You guys can probably hear them kicking around in the barn over there. This is the same building where we held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. That's the only history I got. So let's talk about spirit boxes. This is not television. This is not, is somebody here? Because if somebody answers no, that means somebody's here, right? Because we're not going after, yes or no questions here. We're going after specific details, which is, fingers crossed, why you guys are all here to actually see some paranormal proof. If somebody's here, tell me what color the Big Red Barn is. Obviously, you know the answer. This will be the only location where you will know the answers to the questions you're going to ask. So, again, obviously we're looking and listening for the color red. When I say looking, Kelly has a word list. She can't listen to it. She's got to look at it. However, the ones that are listening to the spirit boxes, the word red might not be in a DJ or song lyrics vocabulary at that particular moment. However, heartbeat, blood, fire truck. All three of those things are specifically red. So heart, blood, and fire truck. I didn't mean to say heartbeat. So that would be an acceptable answer to me. What color is the big red barn? Fire truck. That makes sense. However, most of the night, I'm going to require at least two things to kind of verify what's going on. Let's say, for example, Maddie hears the number 40, and Kelly, you have the word art on your word list. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. Do you guys see where I have to put the two different clues together? A lot of the times tonight, with these different stories, there'll be multiple people with the same name. Georges, Johns, that kind of thing. We need to know who the hell we're talking to. So again, we're looking for those specific details. In the event you don't get an answer of what color is the big red barn, we're going to be spending a few minutes here as I bounce around each person. What's inside the barn? Obviously anything related to horses will work, delivery, milk, eggs. These are all keyword terms. I usually slow down and emphasize keywords. From the Big John story, 47, New York, Giants, anything football, anything dealing with a bar. Obviously those are going to be keyword terms that we're looking for. This is not going to be a full-blown conversation. Spirit boxes, feel free to go ahead and spread out. Nobody here has an open air spirit box. That's why you guys are wearing earbuds, so we're not going to be bothering the horses. The only thing I will say is, Christian, your lasers, again, will set off car alarms, and we do not want them on the building either. They will spook the horses even though they have lights on. They can still see them pretty clearly. So we don't want to spook the horses in any way, shape, or form. I do work with the cameras first. So you're basically going to be following Gray and Malcolm around. So wherever they have a spike, we're going to stay within the confines of this slot. People do not like their cars being filmed. We will hit a few spots where there's going to be people's cars parked somewhere. So we want to be cautious of, filming somebody's vehicle, and we don't go in between people's cars either. So just imagine if it was your vehicle, you want somebody pointing a camera in there. I don't want people on. However, if I was a car thief, Steve's camera would be my first choice of tool, because I can see how long everybody's car has been here based on its heat signature. So, no giving the teenagers any ideas. So, we are going to spread out a little bit. However, I'm going to keep Trey and Steve with me just for a moment, just to show them a few more tactics about their devices. London, if you want to go with Malcolm first and show him about that motion meter and get him going on that, and let's spread out and see what we can actually hear. Definitely turn your spirit boxes up. So, Maddie.
This is just white noise, though, is all I'm hearing. I'm not hearing any kind
Are your
of...
stations moving? That's why. You must have something set somewhere.
Got it.
There you go.
Okay.
Something happened.
Okay. Got it.
All right. So, cameras.
All right, Christian. you come over.
Steve, we'll start with yours. So basically, I don't know how much you know about thermal imaging, but in a nutshell, we want to try to keep somebody's skin temperature in view because we're obviously going to be the warmest things out here. And you're going to notice, like, you have that little bar on the right-hand side of your screen. It's kind of the cheat sheet. That's not going to be on the video, so that's an in-time moment thing only. So you can watch that all night if you want to. You could just be a cameraman if you want to and not look at it at all. I'm going to review it tomorrow morning to see if anything pops up. Again, I'm only going to spot check it, so every 5 minutes I'm going to watch 1 minute. That's basically how I do for everything, so that way I'm not spending hours and hours and hours on stuff. But again, you want to try to keep somebody's skin tone in there just because it will kind of flesh itself out if there's too much of the same temperature nearby. So no matter, I mean, we got a pretty decent sized group here tonight, so it's going to be pretty easy to keep somebody's flesh in there just to make sure like we actually have a good array of color going through it. So, horses are kicking. They don't like me talking too much. But yeah, nice and slow. And you'll also notice if you have the sky in view, sometimes it's impossible not to have the sky in view, but that blue dot will default to the blue sky just because there's nothing to measure. It's only measuring surfaces. And obviously the sky isn't a surface. So if you see that blue dot, try to angle down if you can. Again, sometimes it's going to be impossible just because of the spaces that we're going to be in. So we'll kind of take it from there. But yeah, nice slow movements, and don't film anybody's car. We got this. Make us a nice, good video. Trey, as far as your video, yours is going to work a lot different. So you actually have a little bit more control. Let's say it's one of the two stories. You can turn on the short range. It's the red button right there at the top. It's Velcroed on there, so it's not coming off. But if you shut the short range off, you obviously have the long range working for you the whole time. So again, what I will show you is that this guy gives us night vision. We don't use night vision just because it draws attention from the other tours.
All the way, like,
So, what I'm looking for in your camera, just so you know, I'm spot checking yours, I'm not looking for things in the purple circle.
Basically, you two should probably stick together. It's like yours tells when like energy is here. If that makes sense, and then that's when you start asking questions.
So they have caught some orbs,
Do you have the tours where you look at? Okay. Basically, you're just asking questions.
they're gonna move and stop, move and stop. So hopefully we capture stuff like that throughout the night. It's relatively new. We've only had that for about 3 months, so we're in December, so probably about 4 months now. But again, we've only caught a few things with it. Again, this takes a lot of patience, so that kind of thing.
So, should I try to leave just the long range as much as possible then? Or
No, I mean, we want the short range
keep it as
on.
bright as possible.
Yeah.
Then? And nothing more.
I'll tell you about yours. Yeah, much brighter. So the tip will turn. You want to try to keep as many dots as possible because obviously you're trying to create a full grid, and you don't want to really like cross the streams. You don't want to like put red on top of green. You want to basically make as big of a laser field as you possibly can for something to actually pass by. It'll be a lot easier to capture on the video. So again, be mindful of other vehicles and keep it right in front of you, so that way you guys can actually film it pretty close, and that way it'll be a lot easier to see. I'm going to follow up with the spirit box of Steve, and then we're going to go learn some real history.
All right.
You're a pretty quiet guy, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, these your kids?
My granddaughter and my daughter.
We asked if anything. I was getting a lot over there because it was going all the way up, and we asked if anything was near the white wall. Tell us the color of the barn, and it said red.
Unfortunately, yours isn't recording, so I have to manually record it. So, and that's okay. That's why I always keep a pen and paper for the devices that are not recording. Like you guys are both using devices that are not recording.
Oh, that sucks.
Well, that's why I write everything down. So, have you gotten all the way to red with that here, or has it just been in the mid-range?
It's gotten all the way up 3 times.
Okay. So 15 to 25 miles, and you heard red. Okay. Follow up with the other spirit box, and we'll get this party rolling to some real history.
Nick?
Yes.
I
Did
think
you-
my camera probably locked up.
Should have run into it. Shut up.
After I'm done telling the next part of history, the next stop, we're going to take this good
You said
That's just an example. I get every single night because it's happening. So again, we'll see if the word mark pops up. Shape or form. But that's the only one I see that might actually be something. We have crops or just very interesting. I'll be interested to see if part goes to the first stop that pops up. The other thing is I don't know if they actually have football fans or whatever that kind of stuff. Really go through the roster and the stats to see like what's going on there. So we'll kind of take a look. And then whenever you just hit the circle back. Alright. Let me find where did you go? Oh, okay. Have you heard anything else?
No.
Still finding them?
Yep.
Alright. Let's go learn some real history, everybody. Trey, Maddie, come on. Let's go this way. everybody. Welcome to another beautiful spot of Charleston. I know it's a parking lot, but again, I'm taking you to places that are actually haunted. These are places that once used to be something. So this place used to be home to Charles and Eliza Pinckney. Their mansion sat in the front of this lot. Eliza's garden was lined up right behind that church and came all the way across, and we are standing in the servant and slave quarters for the home. So, who the heck were these people? I guess I should first warn you for spirit boxes again. I'm not going to be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the red barn. You're not going to know the answers to the impromptu questions that I give you, so feel free to go rogue as long as we can prove it. Non-yes or no questions. So, Charles and Eliza, they had a son named Charles, they had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses, in case you lost track of that. Those 3 different Charleses, the son and the nephew, were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. Pretty big deal for us, but you guys are all on vacation. Nobody wants to talk about politics, and neither do I. So, let's talk about Eliza. She's way cooler anyway. There's a reason why I point out her garden. Eliza married Charles at a young age, according to today's standards, not colonial time standards, which was the time period that she's from. She married him because her father over in England thought he was dying, and he wanted to see all of his kids one last time, and she didn't believe he was dying, so she got married. Her husband was over double her age, just so you know, and she did marry him out of love. Even after he died, she remained a widow because she thought she could never love again. Now, as far as that's concerned, Dad got better. So, instead of, coming over and apologizing, he starts sending her gifts from England to the location where you're standing. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes her blue jeans blue. Trey and Steve are wearing it right now. So that's how we still use it today. Indigo was already here, but she had to learn how to keep it cultivated in obviously our not so warm temperatures all year round. She had to learn from her slaves how to keep it going. Once she had it figured out, she moves it to one of their other plantations, calls Dad, not really because it's colonial times, and says, hey, rice plantations are going downhill. We can make a killing with this indigo. Can you give me some contacts in order to be able to sell this indigo overseas? Now we have an international businesswoman in colonial times, which is something absolutely unheard of. This is a huge deal for South Carolina and the colonies. I'm just giving you the history, the basic stuff, so you guys know what she actually did for our country. Let's talk about the weird stuff with Eliza, because that's why y'all are here, the weird stuff. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles. So now we're dealing with 3 Charleses and 2 Elizas. Both Elizas have a maiden name that starts with the letter L. Spirit box folks, if you want to find out which Eliza you're talking to, ask her what her maiden name is, the name she had before she got married. You can ask what happened to the mansion. It's obviously not here anymore. Then you can ask when that tragedy happened, giving you a clue that it was a tragedy of what happened to the mansion. Hopefully you get the year. Eliza's death. Ask anything you want to about her death. Hey Eliza, how old were you when you died? What did you die from? Where are you buried? And what U.S. president was a pallbearer at your funeral? Like, these are pretty specific questions. Eliza's kids. I told you there was at least one. His name was Charles, right? Signer of the Constitution. There's more. However, keep it light. We don't want to poke the bear. There is a tragedy among one of those children that if we ask too many questions about what happened, all activity will stop. So I see a little bit of lift on all these lights being weighted. I don't know if Grace, but I can see it from here. All those little pieces of activity will stop. This is one of my big hotbeds for activity. So fingers crossed, we're actually going to get quite a bit out of this location tonight. Yes.
If his pops up like 2.6 and then goes away, should he let you know that?
Always. That's why they call it ghost hunting. They're not going to stay put. It's not like they're going to come to you and say, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's have a cup of coffee and chat.
He had something back there.
How far up?
Had that tree.
Okay. And how
I thought it was the electrical box.
It could have been. It's a good possibility without knowing the exact spot of where
But
you
right
were.
when I got to the tree, that's when it popped 2.6 and went back down to 0.
So
And just
usually,
now, I didn't want to interrupt you, but it was like 3.9, then back down to 0.
that's good stuff.
But I got
Stuff like
like
electrical
a
poles and parking meters.
battery. I don't
Okay,
know
we're
if
gonna
it's
swap out your battery
battery.
too. Parking meters and electrical
Yeah,
poles,
it's
like
pretty
that'll
good.
make that thing go up to 15 to 25. So if we get little blips of like 3.9 and 2.6, like what you had,
Yeah.
it's a good possibility something's pinching near you, just not in full force.
Yeah.
So again, we kind of need to see
Okay.
where you're at for it to happen, so that way we can debunk it. But yeah, we're gonna swap out your battery once we have things. Look at that, everybody. They've never done an archaeological dig where you're standing, by the way. There's no electrical wires here, nothing close enough to him to actually make it go off. Like, there's nothing close enough to that device at all.
So should I be asking questions?
Yes.
All should be asking questions.
People with the spirit boxes, that's why I put one in every group, so everybody can kind of pay attention. The spirit box is kind of like the hub, you know, a good anchor item to have. So that way you can at least see some activity. I think that covers the basic questions. Again, if you go rogue with questions, let me know what they are, especially if you get direct answers. Numbers and names usually don't lie, so if you hear or see names and numbers, I want to know what they are, because a lot of that stuff can add up pretty quickly of who's actually here, because it could be one of the children, it could be the husband. I usually go after Eliza because she's the happier person of this location. So, of course, I'm not going to leave you hanging without answers before we leave, so we'll kind of see what happens throughout the night. Trey, go ahead and get your video started for sure. Hopefully it's warmed up enough to not freeze the lock up on us. And let's spread out. I'm going to check you guys in on the apps where you guys bought your tickets from, and I'm going to change out Malcolm's battery. So, again, we're going to stay within the confines of the lot, no in between cars, and make sure we're not shining lasers or filming any vehicles. So, looks like we're about to get some turns. I can see your redness. All right, guys, let's spread out. Let's have some fun. Obviously, so we can get your team.
Yeah, her grandfather was a
Her grandfather? I could tell you. You know about her dad. I don't know anything about him, about the grandfather. Unfortunately, to change your battery, I need a screwdriver. That's why I carry one.
Hey, London.
Yep.
If I had a blue cold spot, will this whole bar go blue? Or is it
I'm not really sure because I haven't like messed with the
the thermal?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wondering. Oh, I should be dead.
You're supposed to ask what her last name is.
Maybe if I say what year were you born?
Not the stick to the TV. That's not a bother. Shit, operation for sure. Especially when you're afraid about it. Like I do. Anything going on there, Steve?
You know, I've got a question. If I do see something cold dip, will this bar turn blue, go up?
You'll get a very low temperature down here. So like the coldest point right now,
35? Oh, no.
but your average should be anywhere between like, I would say, I mean, right now it's a 70.
That's it. Preference.
Yeah. But that's your lowest point in the frame at that moment.
I go to 45. Well, it's nothing in front of me.
Just let you know if anything goes better.
Yeah. And I've seen in this location that thing go all the way high as 149, which is kind of like the microwave on high with the door open. So, based on your averages, to answer further on your questions, I would expect, because I mean we're sitting at about an average of 51 degrees out here according to AccuWeather. So if I saw anything that's dropped like in the 30s that wasn't metal or something that's been out here for a little while, that would probably be something significant.
Okay.
But yeah, that's basically what I'm looking for. See like those blue and black spots? Like
Yeah.
if that stuff started taking shape or moving around,
Yeah.
you're like, oh shit, we got something.
Okay.
Check us out.
Yep.
Oh yeah. We actually had that popped up last week, just when the wedding was. That was cool. Like they asked how old she was when she got married, and she gave us a year. Can't make this stuff up.
And that's Eliza?
Yeah.
Alright, Eliza. We need to hear something, girl.
Okay, two. Madison. Grace. Gary. I'm gonna just move around a little bit. Yeah. There's a church out there.
You're 0.
Being pulled all over. Now what do you got?
Guys, go next. Go next.
What?
Go next to the sign.
I did.
Stay there.
Get anything? We actually go to any graveyards?
We're gonna get close to St. Philip's, and I'll explain why we don't go to like a lot of graveyards on this, only because we don't get much activity.
Oh, really?
People don't hang out where they're buried. They just don't.
2 years ago, Ray actually got an image on her iPhone camera.
Okay.
A silhouette of somebody's face.
Okay.
She thought it was a mistake or a problem with the camera. She went back, took it again, and it was gone. And then she on that pier where people swing on that pier, she got an image by a bench. It's kind of weird.
Down there at White Point?
I guess that's what it's called.
Yeah, White Point Garden where the pirates were hung.
Oh, really? It didn't look like a person, just kind of a weird little image, or white, dark image she caught on the camera.
So I often hear stories, because I mean, I talk to all kinds of people, obviously. They took a picture, they saw the picture had something in it, and then they can't find it again.
Oh, really?
I hear that all the time.
We actually saved it, and it's still in. She emailed the guy who took us on that tournament, and it's been posted on Facebook.
Of course.
But that round church,
Circular church, yep.
Yeah, the circular one, I caught, my camera caught orbs. I thought it was dust.
Yeah.
So I took it apart, cleaned it, and took it again, same thing. Then I went to another location, nothing was there. It was clear.
The Circular Church is said to be haunted by Revolutionary War vets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I've been kind of looking at that place just to kind of get close to it and get some footage of it. But the only tie I can put into like an actual story there is that one of the descendants from the Pinckneys is buried there, and he owned a newspaper called the Mercury. So I've been going there like after tours, like just hanging out, listening to spirit boxes and watching, film footage, and just hanging out near there to see if I can get anything from it. Because again, I want to take you guys to actual places where I get activity from. I'm not getting anything. So people that are getting stuff from there, I think it's great. But I know Bulldog Tours right now, like they are doing tours through the Circular Church, so it's almost like they're kind of scaring them off, kind of thing.
Could be, right?
And with here, I mean, I'm here 6 nights a week in this lot, but I'm doing it respectfully because it's a woman of respect. So when I'm here, a lot of times my name will pop up. I mean, obviously, kids and everybody's hearing stuff on the spirit boxes, how relevant it is. I don't know until I put the pieces together.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
You said you missed your husband when did he die?
what's your reading supposed to be, Max? What do you look for, Max?
On my hair?
No, not really. What are you looking for? Sound?
Just words. It flips through radio stations. And if, yeah.
And it picks up a word from that station?
No, it flips through a bunch of them at a time. So if you ask a question, the spirit will guide it to a radio station that's saying a word that answers your question.
I got you. Have you heard it yet? Did it do one?
Mm-hmm. At the barn, we said if there's someone at the wall, what color is the barn? And it said red.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you tell them?
Yeah. And then we asked how many kids that she had, and it said 4 3 times in a row over there, and we asked him, and he said she had 4 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went to a radio station and said 4?
3 times in a row.
Different ones. And then stopped on a radio station and said 4.
Yeah. 3 different stations. 3 times in a row. Yeah.
You guys getting some activity going on.
We're special.
Sure. So you listen to the radio station for the words?
Nothing at all? Okay. So when we crossed that last crosswalk coming down East Bay Street, that's where the original Charlestown Wall used to be. So you're standing in one of the first streets Charlestown, the walled city, ever had. The reason I ask for names, people used to live here. The 2 giant buildings, these weren't here. So little tiny shotgun houses. So I have the full list of residents of every person that's ever lived down here. Names I commonly hear, Benjamin and John. Again, this is a residual ghost based on the cobblestones you all are walking on. So, these are Belgian blocks, which means they're made out of pure granite. Anything made out of pure granite, limestone, coming straight from the earth like that, they say actually turns into kind of like what they call the stone tape theory. Basically, it holds on to the consciousness of memories. So, with that said, when I hear the names Benjamin and John every 6 to 7 weeks, those are 2 people that used to live down here in 1801. 2 out of 5 people that lived here in 1801. It's pretty good odds. It's the right Benjamin and John. If I'm unsure about which John, because there were 4 of them that lived here during the 70-year period, we get the last name, Johnson. Yes, his name was John Johnson. So, very easy to distinguish which one lived here. It's called Lodge Alley because this is also where the Freemasons had their Masonic lodge. We do get the word Mason, we get clay, we get brick, we get anything dealing with the Freemasons, including the word Illuminati. I've heard it several times down here on different types of spirit boxes. Take it for what it's worth. Very interesting space. So again, it used to be pretty dark at the end, but yeah, definitely turn that one off. This is considered a quiet area. That's why we start using headphones now for the spirit boxes. We definitely don't want to keep that laser on for too long. Just because, again, we are standing next to the hotel. Every hotel down here has a claim of a ghost. My wife and I will be doing a round robin of all the different claims of haunted rooms and putting them in the podcast to see whether they're actually haunted or not. And yes, we will publish them even if they're not. So that's kind of how we work. We don't like to make anything up. So London's jealous because she won't always get to go. So take that for what it's worth. Very interesting space here. They did do an archaeological dig in here, unlike the Pinckney Mansion site. They did find some of their clothing. They found some of their tools and silverware. Classify these people as lower class. If you didn't know what a shotgun house was, it's basically a 1 to 2 room house. You can shoot a gun in the front and it would go out the back. So that's what used to be here. It also makes sense that these people were lower class because the other side of the wall would have been down on East Bay Street, across from where we were walking. The smell of low tide would have been coming through here quite often. People, the higher end of people, are not going to put up with that kind of smell. Now, if you notice the houses down on the Battery, they are skinny in the front and they go long backwards, right? So those are designed that way on purpose. First, you get taxed based on how much street side you took. I will also point out that the house you guys saw at the Pinckney Mansion site in the picture They didn't care how much they were taxed. It's the Pinckneys. They have money. They want to brag and boast. People down there on the Battery, again, they want to tax little, but they also had the piazzas with the front doors on the porches. So basically, they would open up the top window, and the low tide smell wouldn't come through the house. The cool air would go through the top window and air condition the whole home. So again, that's why those houses are designed the way they are and the way they're angled the way they are. These people, they didn't have that luxury. So as we walk through the rest of this location, we will cut the videos off once we get to the end of the alley, just so you guys know I like to get a little bit of footage, just in case some shadow people like to pop up. We have caught some orbs on a few cameras from time to time. We're going to be cutting through a neighborhood. I'm literally taking you right on the edge of where tour guides are allowed to take you. We may also run into other bigger tours. I only take my groups to 10. The city allows us to go to 20. So we may kind of just pick and choose our spots of where we're going to, investigate next based on evidence coming up out of Kelly's list and or something else that somebody hears on their spirit box. Maddie, no pressure. So, you guys hearing anything else, or you guys staying focused on me? Haven't heard anything? Okay, Kelly, anything come up on your word list?
Yeah, I've had a few others.
What you got?
When we turned into this alley, I got river, fragment, haunting, fire, representation, and picture.
There's been a lot of fires down here. Until we get a year of which one that they're talking about, I'll call it irrelevant, just because, again, it's a vague term, and I don't want to get anybody excited. There has been evidence of fires underneath these bricks. So it did endure a lot of the fires that we've gone through here in Charleston. So
It said summer.
summer fire, that's great. I will tell you that the Great Fire of 1861, that was in December. So I want to say that anniversary was yesterday for that. It would have been December 21st, if I'm not mistaken. Just so you guys know, Eliza's birthday is also coming up, so I was waiting for the number 28 to pop up. Her birthday is December 28th. So none of you heard that. So I was kind of like, maybe it'll actually pop up on the 28th. We'll see what happens. So again, let's go through the rest of the alley. Let me know if you guys hear anything. Any spikes coming up out of you, Malcolm? Nothing?
It's a steady 1.1 or 1.2.
That's coming from the building behind you then. Greg, what about yours? Pretty steady? Okay.
You want me to turn that?
The motion meter?
Yeah.
If London didn't explain it to you, when you're walking, your emotions can actually set it off.
Yeah,
So until we get to our next stop. Yeah. I normally give it to females because females walk more gracefully than us. So kind of see what happens when we get to the next stop. We are going to go to another alley. However, I can't take you down it like I did on this one because I've actually been booted out of it. We'll discuss that once we get there and why we can't go down there.
Thanksgiving.
London laughs every time I tell that part of the story. So let's go see what we can find.
I love it. That was there.
I think I know this alley by now.
You think I know how to walk by now?
You just have to agree.
I don't get answered. We just stopped. I looked behind me. It's like I'm just like a specific spot.
Something happened?
Did anything happen? Did anything happen? Did you get an answer? Or anything?
I didn't know if something happened. No. Okay.
We're just checking it out.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
I hear a lot of words every second.
Alright. I'm gonna line you guys up against this building here. What are you doing on that side? Last time you went on that side. Alright, so the alley behind me is Philadelphia Alley. It used to be called Dueler's Alley. So it is residential at the end and no tours are allowed to go all the way through. And yes, you guys remember you have the blinky lights and the noisemakers and all that stuff, and the neighbors at the end don't really appreciate us going all the way through the ring with posts. So that's why we just kind of stand out here. Not to mention, I still get a ton of evidence coming out here just to tell the story with you guys listening to your spirit boxes, and especially tomorrow morning I'll find even more, I almost guarantee it. Duelers out. We all tell the story of one specific duel because it actually happened. So this is like take 20 paces, turn and shoot kind of duels. Doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves down here because he's supposed to get married to his fiancee Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her grandparents. She has an attorney handling all that money for her, and he tells her, get rid of the doctor. He's just after your cash. So the doctor moves to Charleston to prove that he's not. He's going to start his practice here, and he's going to prove that he loves Amanda for who she is. As he's coming into town, the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. Not a very good start to his stay in Charleston. A man walking by with the name Ralph Isaacs. First off, I want you guys to keep in mind what you're doing tonight. You're ghost hunting, so initials and letters mean something. Ralph Isaacs has the same initials as to where the doctor came from, Rhode Island. R.I. will show up here, but we need that secondary clue so we know who it belongs to. However, R.I. showing up by itself is an anomaly. So, he says, Doctor, you don't want to stay here. This guy's going to try to kill you. Let me take you somewhere else. He takes him to 59 Church Street. That's Church Street, the next block up. I have some friends up there you can rent a room from. So he rents a room from this Ralph's friends, and Ralph and the doctor become friends themselves. So the doctor's practice takes off. He's making lots of money. Amanda's moving down soon. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. Every haunted city has a whistler. Ours just happens to be a doctor. So him and Ralph go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. Now, with that said, they start talking about these plays on the way home. One night, they're talking about William III from Shakespeare. The doctor loves the new actress that was here. Ralph doesn't. The argument gets pretty heated, especially when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. They go their separate ways. Ralph is from here. He has friends at the newspaper. He goes to see his friends. He puts an ad in the paper and tells the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees the ad and rebuttals, let's go to Dueler's Alley. They take 20 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots his one bullet. He did not want to kill his friend, he just wanted to get him forget. One shot, sorry Bob. He puts it right in the kneecap on the doctor. Yes, he just shot you in the knee. So, the doctor doesn't die. He's carried home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. Remember, this is a doctor who could not heal himself. He probably died from bleeding out trying to get that bullet in the heel. They say as you walk through the alley, you can hear the whistles from the doctor. This is another reason why when I went down there, everybody shuts their devices off. You listen to the audio later. However, I do invite you to go down there because it is the most picturesque place we have. Day or night, it is this quiet. You can't hear the hustle and bustle from East Bay Street 2 blocks away. Turn on your voice recorders, listen to it later, see what you capture. Every local knows the story. If somebody's walking down Cumberland, which is the street we're on, or Queen Street on the other side of it, we all throw a whistle down the alley. Every time. I do it every night on my way back to my garage just for shits and giggles, just because I can. So I don't go down there anymore with you guys, so as I'm walking back, I always throw a whistle, just to throw off all the other tours that like to go halfway. They also say you can hear gunshots. I've never caught any gunshots of any kind down there. I do have some faint whistling that I cannot debunk. So take that for what it's worth. You're going to get a lot of terms out of your spirit boxes. I always get a lot. Even as we go through the rest of the night, sometimes things will show up even later on. We're going to be relatively close to the spot for the rest of the evening. So again, things will still pop up around this particular story. Amanda's name, 59, Church Street, all of these extra key phrases that I slowed down on are what you're going to be listening for in your spirit boxes. At the end of the alley, one of the reasons why I used to take people all the way through, those bricks get older. They are sun-dried bricks from slave children, which means they had to turn them every hour. I have fingerprints and a handprint at the end that show one of, obviously, from those slave children. Everybody wants to put an EMF meter near it, spirit box, and listen in. I told you earlier, we don't go to graves and cemeteries because you're not going to hang out where you're buried. You're also not going to hang out when you were a slave and you have a reminder of it. Just so you guys keep that in mind. If you want to see the handprint for yourselves, go all the way through it. You can do that. It's about 14 to 16 bricks in from the Queenside Street just to the right. Dead center. So, from here, we're going to actually go up to the next corner. Kelly, what's on your word list?
Towel, 8, save, knife, 70.
That was Eliza's death age.
Yeah. Only, efficient, malicious.
I like 8. I don't know why. It's not the doctor's birthday. It's the 7/7. That's an easy one to remember. It's July 7th. Not to mention it's a day after London's birthday.
You know the caliber of the bullets are?
I don't. It would have been a musket, actually. So, depending on the time period, it would have been a different size musket ball. Very interesting. I'll have to see what ties into that, if anything at all. Nothing pops out of the top of my head.
Ask this.
Maybe one of y'all know.
How were they going to kill the doctor? Was somebody gonna use a knife to stab him?
Probably. Again, there's a specific story with a lot of the finer details of that. So it's a possibility it would have been a knife. It's probably somebody waiting on the inside of the very bad hotel, that he was going to stay in, or the room he was going to take. So it was probably somebody on the inside with a knife waiting for him. It's a good possibility. I'll definitely dive into that story. Look for it. But yeah, because this definitely wasn't a knife duel. This was a revolver.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I did have something show up about the revolvers that they used. There's a very specific piece. It said like brass hand or something along that line. Revolvers, and there's a piece on those revolvers from the late 1700s that had a piece called a brass hand. And it showed up on your word list. And that was about 8 years ago. A lot of weird things. I'm like, what the hell is that? You don't just get a phrase like brass hand. Hard to listen to for long periods of time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's very hard.
I keep saying the ground.
The ground? That's what we're talking about, the bricks back there. Very interesting.
That's when I run.
We have the word alley that just showed up. Like you can't make that up at all. If somebody hears Philadelphia on a Charleston radio station, I will be super ecstatic. Very excited about that. But I'm excited that alley showed up as we were talking about Philadelphia alley. Like that's not ironic at all. Because that's happened in the past. Alright, let's go talk about some other ghosts. Let's see what we can get. You can turn that off and kind of give it a break if you want. October, we hear it twice, and we also died in October. So we hear October twice. Or we'll hear the word promise. The word promise is based on the pink promise. Those are attached to the front part. So again, to clarify which Charles we're speaking of. So, I say we go deep dive into this female pirate before somebody falls asleep, or Trey decides he's going to give us a whole sentence and tell us more history than I can give you. He's on it. I love it. So once we figure out where that car is going to go, we're going to go across the street.
I heard 50.
50? Are you hearing anything, Master?
We're getting tired of it.
I'll get you a new battery after I give you the history here. So, I don't know whose car alarm was going off, but any words out of you before we get started? I know Trey just shouts them out.
Sorry. Get excited.
I love it.
Towards
Okay.
10 stars and
Yeah, I got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Alright, so we talked about intelligent ghosts, we talked about residual ghosts. This is what I call a familiar ghost. We are at a location that is going to be familiar to the time period that we're going to be talking about. It's the only reason why we're here. This ghost is said to be seen all over town. However, we're talking about the oldest government building in South Carolina. That building over there with the crosses on it, that's the powder magazine. Those are not crosses, those are earthquake bolts. The gist behind those is that we can tighten them after another earthquake if we have one, like we did in 1886, and it'll straighten the building back up. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. So, we got earthquake bolts all over town, it's just part of the Charleston charm. So if you see lion heads and pineapples and crazy shit on the side of buildings, those are earthquake bolts, they just don't work. They're just for show. This is the oldest government building. I told you guys about the Charlestown walls earlier. This is the street where the Charlestown wall existed. So it went up past the powder magazine and started going south towards the battery after about half a block. It's there on purpose. It's 3 blocks away from the water. If it gets attacked from cannon, either from pirates or Revolutionary War or whatever have you, it's going to have a hard time getting through those walls. They're 32 inches thick. Well, let's say it goes all the way through, blows up the gunpowder. There's sand underneath those red shingles that is supposed to blow up with the explosion and fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. It's another great idea that just doesn't work. Yeah, no. So, we know that because we had another powder magazine near the battery. It did get attacked. Sand went in the air, it fell, building burned to the ground. So it no longer exists. This one's just never been attacked. It also served in 7 different wars, with the Civil War being its last servant. I tell you all of this history because it's a government building, which means this tiny little place took 10 years to build. Does that sound like our government? Not at all. So, in the middle of its construction, from 1703 to 1713, is when our story begins. A young lady named Anne Cormack moves here from Ireland with her father and his mistress. The 3 of them are getting away from his wife. You guys with me? The mistress is her mother, in case you didn't catch on to that. So, they get here and they move to Georgetown. That's where they landed. Dad buys a plantation. Mom dies pretty quickly after they get here. He has to start sending the daughter down here to Charlestown to sell anything from the plantation and any wares that they already have to keep things afloat. That's why we're here. This building is familiar. We don't have many buildings this old. So, and this is one of the tour places we're actually allowed to go to. So, with that said, she comes down here. We're going to fast forward to 1715 when pirates are coming through town. She's pretty stoked. Rumor had it that Anne actually killed one of her servants back home in Ireland with a knife to the belly. So just to tell you how badass she was, she was probably 7 or 8 years old. When she's here in 1715, she's about 15, 16 years old. She falls in love with one of these pirates pretty quickly. His name is James Bonny. Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. They go to Jamaica, they get married. Anne Cormack becomes Anne Bonny, your most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. Her career started right here in Charleston. So she gets down there. James is not who she thought he was. He's not Captain Jack Sparrow like she was hoping. This guy is a privateer. He is a spy for the British. He's a coward in her eyes. A few years later, she falls in love again, trying to get away from him. The new guy, his name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. Much cooler name. He has his own ship, and she wants to be part of it. Females curse pirate ships. I don't know what's with my stories and females being cursed and all that stuff, but here it is again. He makes a deal with her. If you dress like one of the crew and hide your gender, then you could be part of the crew and be a female at my quarters. She's okay with this because Dad used to hide her as a boy back home in Ireland to keep her away from his wife. So she's good. Let's be a pirate. Being a female in his quarters, let's put 2 and 2 together. She eventually gets pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant pirate guy on the crew. It's not going to work. Somebody's going to figure it out. So he sends her to Cuba. We'll have the baby, come back, and figure it out later. She has the baby, comes back, no child. We have no idea what happened to this kid, and she's dressed like a female. She doesn't give a damn anymore about hiding that gender. This makes Jack mad. He just captured another pirate crew, and she's going to go flirting, because that's what Anne does. We're on guy number 3, in case you lost track. So, guy number 3 that she's flirting with turns out to be a female dressed like a guy to be part of the crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females doing the exact same thing on the same ship. She convinces this young lady, whose name is Mary Reed, to become part of the crew. British find out where they are. They send their entire fleet to come and take the one pirate ship. Anne and Mary are the only 2 not drunk enough to stay up above to actually fight with their 1-bullet muskets. Obviously, 2 females with 1-bullet muskets are going to get taken down. Says the whole crew is being arrested. Ann's last words were to Jack, "We should have fought like a man instead of going down like a dog." So, the judge, his name is Nicholas Trott, another Chief Justice that shares my name. So I told you about Nicholas, not Nicholas Trott. Nicholas Trott is here. Nicholas Laws is the one there. Sorry, so Nicholas Laws wants to see the two men that fought back by themselves. They go in front of the judge. They reveal their gender. He doesn't care if they're female. He's still going to send them to jail because they're pirates, and he's still going to hang them. However, they both claim to be pregnant with, "We plead our bellies." You can't hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It's illegal. So he sends them both back to jail, delaying the hanging until after the pregnancies are over. Dad is still here in Charleston with his Irish money. He bails her out. She remarries guy number 4, has 4 kids, and dies at the age of 84. That's all we know. As far as Mary Read, she died a year later, 1721.
Anything, Grace?
That on a square?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the right default color?
Yep. Yeah, you have to really go into the settings to be able to change the color of it. Like I have it set a certain way, just so you guys can see it better.
I heard Mary twice.
Mary? Well, the interesting thing is there are 2 Marys in the story. First off, did you guys ask about the parents?
No, he asked about the parents.
Well, Mary was Anne's friend, if you recall, the one that she was flirting with. And then Mary was also the name of Anne's mother. So you heard it twice, there's 2 Marys. I don't know what type of know what to listen for, so that way I literally just write down everything that I do. So I go through it, and I do the research, and then I can see what's relevant. Shooting about 50 feet.
So this is it in this parking lot?
Yeah, this is the last stop.
Okay.
We'll stop over here by this wall. I want to see what these spirit boxes go. But, I mean, she heard Mary already.
Yeah.
You can't deny that. I want to see what comes up out of Trey's team. Malcolm, you got anything?
I got a 4 right here.
You're also close to the parking meter electrical lines.
Her dad bailed her out of jail, right?
Yeah.
Finally heard one.
We asked her why or when her dad bailed her out of jail, and she said pregnant.
3.3.
Well, that's interesting because they heard Mary twice. The interesting thing there is that there are two Marys in the story. Mary Reed, her friend, and Mary, her mother. But you heard pregnant.
You're pregnant.
See? Ghost hunting is just patience. Always patience. Never know with this one.
to North Charleston?
Bridge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is? North Charleston.
Oh, what you hear?
I said I heard bridge quite a few times, and then North Charleston.
Tell him. He probably knows the history, story behind it, maybe.
And now my headache stopped.
Oh, really? Well, go talk to him.